Hey folks, Tori here with Cedar Hill Homestead. I had not planned on doing a Milky Oats video because I had planned on making it a part of one of our plant walks, but finding specifically Avena Sativa Milky Oats in the wild is not super common, and with how many of you purchased fresh Milky Oats from the fundraiser we were doing for Black Lives Matter, I decided to show you. And again, this is one of those videos where I feel a little bit silly showing you because it's so simple, but I completely understand that once you some things are too simple to believe. So once you see someone do it, it really breaks the ice and you just get it. So that's what I'm hoping we can accomplish today, especially considering my last video was on wild lettuce, which also contains that sappy latex that Milky Oats do. So you can actually apply this video to the same preparation for wild lettuce if you're planning on making a wild lettuce extraction as well. So I do want to just start by making a big worthy ode to Milky Oats. There is so much to say about this beautiful plant. For starters, if you grow Milky Oats or if you find another way to purchase it from a farm or whatnot, it is one of those plants that you absolutely have to get fresh. Not just fresh, but there's this very specific stage in Milky Oats just before it seeds where it drops these pods and they fill up with that delicious milky sap just before they turn into that hard seed. And that process really only lasts 1 week. You can squeeze out 2 weeks, but for one solid week, all of them in the field are gonna just be rich and full and ready to go. So that was last week, and it's kind of a crazy period of time because it's not like some other plants where they bloom for a month and you can just harvest them, they grow back, you harvest them, they grow back. It's 1 week out of the whole year. So we get kind of crazy with preparations for that over here. For example, because it's now a tradition that we go and harvest several pounds, I think we harvested 120 pounds this year from our friend's farm and share them with all of you, we decided to buy a chest freezer because our freezer is absolutely full of my plant findings. And one, there would be no room for the oats in that freezer, but two, it's already filled with all my oats and other herbs and whatnot, and it just was not happening. So we went and got a little chest freezer, which will be great because there's so many other plants that need to be used and preserved fresh as well that I can use that for. So we did that. We also built drying racks, which is something I've been meaning to do forever, but we had to get it done for the Milky Oats harvest because, again, where were we going to put 120 pounds of oats before we got them ready to ship to you all? So I'm really excited about that project, and I want to show you all what those look like because it might spark some inspiration for you. If any of you have ever worked in restaurants, then you are definitely familiar with the term speed racks. They are tall racks. Typically they have 8 shelves, and they're either large enough for full-sized oven sheet pans or half-size sheet pans. And we actually had one of each. A friend of mine found some by a dumpster and she knew that they would be great for that and offered them to me. I'm so grateful. So we got 2 of those for free, and then we just went and got some of this really cheap it's like long strips of untreated wood from Lowe's and some wire mesh screening, and made our own little racks, and it's so awesome. Because this time of year specifically is when we're harvesting not only bigger plants, but like large amounts. So having somewhere to dry all of those other than our teeny mesh rack upstairs is important. Anyways, on to the magical properties of Milky Oats. So there's that 1 week period where they're full of that milky latex. That milky latex is what you're after. That is where the medicinal constituents of this plant lie. So no matter what you're doing to extract that plant, you have to keep that in mind, just like the wild lettuce. So with all of those plants that we're needing to pull that latex, It's not as simple as other tinctures where you simply put it in a jar with alcohol and it extracts. For example, I've got my oats in some alcohol right now. I'm going to top this off and you'll see they float to the top. And if I were to just let it sit in here with alcohol, my oats would just be sitting at the top and they would not be extracting very much. I might be extracting the chlorophyll, the green from the outside of the oats, but getting into that milky latex is a little bit harder. So what we're gonna do today is put them in our Vitamix. You do not have to have a Vitamix. Any other blender will do. The idea is just to crack these open, really incorporate them with the alcohol and water that they're in and expose that sap to your menstruum, the alcohol, the water. Maybe you are alcohol free, so you're using either glycerin or vinegar. No matter what you're doing, this is important. And before I get to the uses, again, one more thing I will say. I've been meaning to do some experimenting with potentially making an oat milk from the Milky Oats. Not an oat milk like we use regular oats for, like a flavor, not a flavored, but like a nice rich milk that you can add to your coffee or whatever. More so to get the medicinal benefits from this plant, because if you make a tea from Milky Oats, of course you can use dried oats, which we do have a lot of oats that we dried during the milky phase, so they will have some of that plant latex in there. But we will still have that problem of them floating to the top and not really getting that stuff out. So it's important if you're making a tea from Milky Oats to decoct it, which means to bring water on the stove up to almost a boil and then let it simmer for a long time, stirring those oats in there to really draw that stuff out. But what I was thinking that could be a really cool replacement for doing that would be to take your fresh Milky Oats with water in the blender, blend it up just like you would almond milk or oat milk or any other nut milk. After you blend it and you expose that sap to the water, let it sit overnight just like you would with other nut milks. And then in the morning, take your cheesecloth or what have you and wring it out. The cool thing is, at that point, the sap from that plant was exposed and you're now really extracting it out into that water. So whether that water tastes like a milk or tastes good or not, that's going to be a really nice, powerful medicinal milk. So I'm going to try that, and if it works out well, I will do a video about it because we've got a lot of oats to get through. I don't see why it wouldn't. And what I'm imagining is at the very least, it does not look or taste milky at all. So I then take that water, heat it up, add cream and honey like I would a tea or a coffee drink or whatever. Regardless, it's going to be a powerful medicinal drink. And me babbling on about this hopefully is just to say to you all, expand your options, expand your mind other than what you pull up on Herbal Academy or a quick Google search. Really experiment with plants, because there are so many things that we haven't tapped into yet that have not been researched. People just haven't done them yet. So maybe you're the first to do it and document it. Now, the uses of oats. I keep putting this off because I'm just like, where do I begin? I think probably the most important thing to say about Milky Oats is that it's a trophorestorative herb. That is a very special category of herbs. Essentially, the best way I can describe what that means, nervine herbs is something that we're all a little bit more familiar with. Nervine herbs are wonderful for the nervous system. They are either stimulating to the nervous system, sedating, or nourishing. All of them are going to be somewhat nourishing, some of them more than others. But how they work, nervine herbs, is by affecting our nervous system directly. Trophorestorative herbs work by, rather than just simply sedating or stimulating the nervous system, they are really like repairing, restoring, nourishing frayed nerves, just saturating the nervous system with love, essentially. And so rather than something like skullcap, passion flower, blue vervain, some of those like herbs that work pretty quickly. Like if we have anxiety, we might have a tincture that we take on the spot under our tongue, and it really helps to settle the nerves. Milky Oats is not going to work immediately like that. In fact, it's probably not even going to work in the first week of taking it, because that's not how it works. It works over time by keeping it in your system and essentially saying to your nervous system, I'm here for you. I'm listening. I want to support you. I want to build you up, and I want to help you resist and adapt to all the stress that I'm throwing your way. And that is what Milky Oats does. Milky Oats helps us from the inside out by, rather than just addressing the symptoms of anxiety, helping to calm the nerves, helping to just really relieve some tension and calm us down. It's saying, you know what, I've noticed that we've been stressed out a lot more lately, so let's go ahead and prepare ourselves for this stuff. And they're just really helping to do that, to better make us more equipped for regular stress. Adaptogens are pretty good at that too, and just to really work by healing us from within, soothing the nervous system and the nerves. So this is why Milky Oats are directly recommended sometimes for people who feel tired and wired, just super frazzled, is because it's going to I literally picture a frazzled person. I picture all these like loose wires and frayed nerves everywhere. Milky Oats is essentially, if you've ever done electric work, which I don't know if you have, essentially is coming up to those loose wires and putting a cap on them, right, and tucking them away. And it's just such a beautiful herb. And there's a lot of other claims we hear about Milky Oats. For example, a lot of people address the phrase sowing your oats, which is a loving sexual term for libido, essentially. And it's not so much that Milky Oats are an aphrodisiac. It's more so that when you address the nervous system and the endocrine system, so many other things come from that. Our endocrine and nervous system affects everything. Everything. So naturally, when you nourish the nerves, libido is going to be a little bit better than if you're frazzled and all over the place. Another thing that I wouldn't directly say, oh, Milky Oats is great for acne, but in return, from taking it regularly, it will help with that, because it is soothing that endocrine system, helping to balance out hormone levels. And so naturally, those two components that cause acne, when they're happy, your acne is going to be better. It's not going to be as, it's not going to be popping up as much. So there's a lot that Milky Oats does. And this is an important thing to note about all herbs, but directly making claims about how it works and what it does, it is a trophorestorative, mild nervine herb. And I try to always talk about this to you all. For example, we've talked about astringents and other categories of herbs, and how once you understand the herbal actions of that category, you can understand more so how they work and start to make assumptions about the plants. Hi. Hi. So anyways, let's get to it. I'm just going to pour the oats and the alcohol into the blender. Maybe not quite that much. So, when it's all said and done, after you've blended for quite a while, this is what your tincture should look like. Similarly to the wild lettuce, it should have a very milky green color which is much different than what it looked like before when it was just the oats floating at the top of that liquid. So it's pretty obvious, even just by looking at it, how much better of a method this would be. So when you've strained your tincture, and this goes even if you are buying a tincture from someone of Milky Oats that they've tinctured and strained, it should be very cloudy. And sometimes you'll have to shake it up to see that cloudiness, but it needs to be there. And in fact, you should certainly be shaking a Milky Oats tincture or any tinctures that have Milky Oats in it before taking it to make sure that you're getting the plant latex when you're taking it. For example, after this has set for a couple days, or after a tincture bottle you may have of Milky Oats has set for a few days, it will look like just plain alcohol with a bunch of green sediment at the bottom. So if you were to just take a tincture dropper from the top of this, all you would be getting was the alcohol because all the good stuff had settled. So it's really important to shake it. And if you offer your the medicine that you make to friends, family, or perhaps even sell it, you really need to be cautious when bottling anything with Milky Oats that you're shaking it regularly in between pouring so that everyone is getting some of that latex in their bottle. So anyways, I hope you've enjoyed this. I will report back on the Milky Oat milk experiment.